Welcome to our world today. I'm Moustafa Elshiekh, and today's guest is Councilman Peter Vallone Jr. Councilman, welcome to our show.
Thanks for having me. Always good to see you, Moustafa.
Thank you. You were born and raised in Astoria, Queens. You went to public schools, then you went to law schools and Fordham University, and then you became a prosecutor. And you worked as an assistant DA for Manhattan District Attorney.
That's my whole life in 10 seconds. Although I went to some Catholic schools too, with one public school.
Well, basically, if I talk about your bio, I'm going to take the whole show, and that's not fair. But in any case, and then you went to the city council, and you were being re-elected 3 terms, and it's going to be a 4th term. Now, tell us a little bit, how did you start in politics?
First of all, we have an election November 3rd, and I want everybody to come out and vote. I have not been reelected yet. I hope to be, and I hope that based on my record I will be, but the turnout in the primaries just recently, horrible. Yes. The worst in the history of elections, basically. So we need everybody to get out and vote. Whoever you're going to vote for, just get out and vote on November 3rd. How I got into politics, my father was privileged to represent Astoria for 27 years. Prior to me being elected, and a lot of people just learn from their parents, and that's what they wind up doing. I saw that he, just as a council member who then became speaker, which is the second most important position in the city, was able to make a huge difference. And he learned that from his father before him, Charles J. Vallone, who was one of the earliest civil rights leaders. He used to lead brotherhood parades down Ditmars Boulevard, and actually my father was not allowed to go to the local Catholic school because they were so mad that he went down Ditmars Boulevard with leaders of other faiths next to him. He was one of the first to do that. So he learned from his father. I learned from both of them. And I wound up being honored and privileged to represent this community starting back in 2002. Right. I've been there ever since. I've loved it, and I hope to continue in public service.
That's great. Since you were a prosecutor, basically your colleagues in the city council have elected you to become the chairman of the public safety. And the chairman of the public safety is very much to oversee the police department. And you have been a strong advocate against all the cuts that has been proposed against the police officers. Now, the Commissioner Kelly, had said that they reduced the force of police officers by 5,000. And despite the 5,000, the crime rate in New York City have went down 12%. How does that work? And are we safe?
It's even more than 12%. From the time Ray Kelly has been police commissioner and Bloomberg was the mayor and I've been public safety chair in 2002, it's down about 27%, which is just incredible, especially in light of what you just said. Right. I mean, we had 41,000 police officers on September 11, 2001. Right. Since then, and I've opposed this every step of the way, we're down to under 35,000. We're probably down 6,000 as opposed to 5,000 now. The reason that we are still winning the war on crime is because of Ray Kelly's proactive policies. First of all, he's instituted policies which never existed before. This stop and frisk policy that he gets a lot of grief for and a lot of complaints, of course it has to be done right, but it is one of the main ways that we are keeping crime down. You can't get guns off the street unless you act proactively before the drive-by happens. If you allow the drive-by to happen and the little girl to get shot in the head because she's standing in the wrong place, like we still see occasionally, right, then go after the guy with the gun, it's too late. The only way to get the gun off the street is for the police officer to look and see who they think has guns because they've seen the gun, they see the bulge in the waistband, they see somebody acting suspiciously, and make that stop and frisk. And so that policy, also Operation Impact, which floods the high crime areas with police officers from the academy, the Real-Time Crime Center, CompStat, things that allow them to know within a few days whether crime is spiking anywhere in New York City, and then they flood that area. We definitely need more cops. The local precinct here in Astoria, the 114, is down from 320 cops to about 170. We're doing a great job here, but and if you're being robbed or something like that, God forbid, you'll have a cop there in seconds. If you've got a past crime, a car accident, your store was burglarized or something yesterday, you'll wait hours and hours for a police officer because they just don't have them. You won't see the beat cop walking around anymore. You won't see the bike cops anymore because they just don't have them. So,
but they also contribute that to basically the technology that we have. I mean, if we arrest someone who has, you know, a warrant, if we arrest someone who has a prior history, then we can lock him up. We know exactly what he has done in his whole history, and then we could lock him away, and you know, and that would help.
You know, and NYPD is on the cutting edge of technology for the entire world.
Right.
And Ray Kelly has embraced that. We are lucky to have him and the entire NYPD. Now, I've also held the NYPD's feet to the fire whenever there's been accusations that they've done something wrong. And there are individual police officers who have done some very bad things, as we know. I mean, there are 35,000 cops. If 1% of them are bad, you've got 350 cops out there that we've got to keep our eyes on. I mean, there's probably more than 1% of elected officials who are bad, or maybe, you know, TV hosts who are bad. So
that is true, but it's unfortunate that only the 1%, the bad 1%, are the ones who get all the attention and give a bad name to the rest of the police officers.
But the reason that is because they have so much power. You really do have to keep the real close eye on your police officers to make sure that you have the best.
Exactly. And we're talking about, you know, also politicians are bad politicians. What do you say to the young people who are so disengaged? You were talking about, you know, how the low turnout in the last election. And that is because young people are so disengaged, they really don't feel that their representatives are really being honest, and that's also because of what they see always on TV and what they hear on the radio and what they read in the newspaper. It's always about a corrupt politician. Robert F. Kennedy once said, I mean, public service, it's a noble profession. Is it still noble? And what is the difference between public service and politics?
Well, politics, my father likes to say, is what gets you into public service. And once you're in the job of serving the public, you should forget politics. You should do what's best and what's right and forget what's better for you politically, or how you're going to get elected down the road, or get your friend elected. Yeah. And it's not just young people who are disillusioned. Everybody's disillusioned, as we saw with this last election, and for good reason. There are so many elected officials out there, many of them in Albany right now, some on the city council. As we're sitting here, another city council member was just found guilty of assault, misdemeanor assault, and this is the kind of stuff they hear all the time. A couple things have to happen. We've instituted all sorts of reforms at the city level to make sure that the money that's being sent out and given out to different groups is done in the light of day and is very transparent, so everybody can see where it's going. That's not happening in Albany. Right. We need to have we need to have people really pay attention to who they're elected. Just because you're an incumbent and I'm an incumbent, that doesn't mean people should vote for that person. They really have to pay attention to who they're voting for, who's running, get involved. There are a lot of young people getting involved nowadays, especially in the Muslim community. I mean, all over Astoria. It's one of the most growing populations in the entire country right here in Astoria. Right. Just go to Steinway Street. It's, it's awesome. And so I do see a lot of people getting involved, and which is a good sign.
Now we want to keep them involved.
We've got to keep them involved. Right. You got to make sure you put good people into office. You may not always agree with them, but put people in that you don't think are going to be stealing money. It's almost a sacred trust that we elected officials have from the voters. You've put us in this position with such an immense amount of power to give money to different groups and to run the country. Right. And people who abuse that, it sickens me. It sickens me, and they need to go to jail, and they need to be out of politics at a minimum. Absolutely. And you know, the public, I think, is rising up against bad elected officials.
So, Mr. Chairman, now that you basically earned